Good morning, United Kingdom. Good morning, Lakhi Singh. How are
Good
you?
morning.
The property fixer, the ixer, the mixer, the maker, the shaker, the mover, the hoover, the louver, or the lover, or the louver, we could say, yeah. The man who makes things happen in the square mile, the man who transmits his energy across the whole of the United Kingdom in providing property solutions, the man who has structured the alternative business and property solutions community for the community and with the community. Lakhi Singh, how are you this morning, sir? First day of the new week, and I assume you're raring to go as usual.
Yes, always raring to go. Never a dull
Excellent.
moment. In fact, there is no such thing as a day of the week. Every day is a
Day of
working day.
the week. Yeah, I like that. Lakhi Singh,
Every
another
minute,
great
every
thing.
hour, every
Just
second
making moves. Yes.
is
So,
focused.
well, that goes back to the saying of the week that a hustler never sleeps. He just takes naps. Like Lakhi Singh, the lion of the square mile. You just go around taking naps, Lakhi Singh, after your meals. You hardly sleep. Is that correct about you? There's a myth that you hardly sleep and you're always making moves. Hello? Can we not hear him? Okay, so we'll continue without Lakhi Singh because he's obviously busy doing something else. So we're going through Lakhi Singh's life story and the Wikipedia life story of Lakhi Singh as we do every Monday. And we've covered most of the critical points in his life that have brought him to where he is now in terms of providing business and property solutions to the general community. But we're also going to go into maybe the philanthropic side of Lakhi Singh because we read that he is involved in lots of charity and philanthropy with his dad, who's the member of the one of the important people in the Sikh Seva Society, I think.
Sikh Missionary Society.
Missionary Society, that's right. And he runs a charity in India and Pakistan called the Seva.
Sikh Seva International.
Sikh Seva International, that's right. Got it wrong way around, but you fixed it for me, as you are the fixer. You fixed that mistake. So yeah, so you've got two charities, and you do a lot of work with them, and work with your father, who's been there for a long time. He's 78 now, apparently. Is that right? And he manages various events, get-togethers, camps, and stuff for children. So, Lakhi Singh, are you a bit of a philanthropist, or are you just dabbling in the world of philanthropy?
Well, I'd say I'd be dabbling because being a philanthropist means that I wouldn't be really doing anything else apart from philanthropy. So I think by my standards, I'm still dabbling.
Dabbling. Okay. So, the saying of the week, then, Mr. Singh, is a person who is a mover and a shaker like you, Lakhi. The words that we're using is what's the word? A hustler. That's right. Never sleeps. He takes naps. Is that your life story now, Lakhi Singh? Are you taking naps? And are you taking perpetual naps that end up being equal to a long sleep, but they're still naps? Or are you actually just taking naps and you're ever making moves and dancing and doing the moonwalk in metaphorical terms, obviously.
Actually, it's very rare that I do take a nap, to be honest. The only time I might take a nap is if I've strained a muscle or something and overdone it on the exercise. So that's maybe once or twice every couple of months. But on the whole, try to just have a regular sleep and regular sleep patterns, so I can just make sure that I'm busy during the day and nighttime I'm resting. It's quite simple.
Excellent, excellent. So you don't have extra long hours of work. You work and you balance your work and your play and your sleep. Is that right, Lakhi Singh?
Yeah, I try to get a normal sleep.
Balanced. So you're very
Otherwise,
balanced
what happens
personality.
is end up having no sleep and working very irregular hours. So it works out pretty much the same during the week anyway. So it's better to just focus on core hours. So from about 7:30 till about 9 every day. That's the sort of core hours I normally tend to do.
Excelente, excelente. So tell us a bit about the charity work that you've toe-dipped into, Lakhi Singh. What is it that you've been doing that you would regard as a toe-dip? Because you may be very modest in your position. Yeah.
So every 2-3 months, my father organizes there's a parade in Southall called Gurpurb that happens about at least 3 or 4 times in a year. So I actually try to rally up 4 or 5 people and my kids to go down, and we spent the whole day with with some of the other organizers that my dad knows, some of the other let's just say executives on the charity. They also turn up, and we will basically do a bucket raise. We go around with the bucket, asking people for money to contribute towards these charities. So there's 2 charity stalls. My dad actually manages to somehow manage both of them. One is on the South Road side of Southall, and the other one is near the Fire Brigade side of Southall. And we typically, for the Sikh Seva International charity, that's the one I normally go around with the buckets with. We typically tend to raise anything between £600-700, going up to 1,500 to, I think, the tops we've had about 1,600 to 1,800 pounds. So
it must be quite humbling to know that you're raising such small amounts of money. Which is quite quite paradoxical to the level of money you play with on a daily basis. Talking raising of millions every day.
Yeah, I think
a few £100.
I think it's less the amount of money you raise.
It must be very humbling.
It's more the community and meeting up with the other executive directors and doing something together. So there's a strong community feeling because it's normally a celebration for the birthday of one of the gurus or a day that's commemorative in the Sikh religious calendar. So it's an opportunity to also get my kids involved and sort of get them involved in the Sikh sort of seva community and help them develop that ethos. So I think it's go back to basics really, rather than working in the city, which is a different kettle of fish. That's more of an occupation than it is a passion, if that makes sense.
Okay, so what other activities do you perform? Because I know there's 2. There's one which is the charity trust in the United Kingdom,
Sikh Missionary Society.
Sikh Missionary Society. That's right.
Yeah.
So what you do? What is the aim of the Sikh mission? So what are you doing?
So the aim of the Sikh Mission Society is to provide educational material and spread knowledge and information about free education about Sikhism, and also to help raise awareness of Sikhism internationally, actually. And also, the second one is to give a percentage of its money coming in towards charity. So there's a charity in India called Pingalwada, I think. They give a lot of money to that one. And another one, I think, in Pakistan. They contribute towards the upkeep of some of the religious areas, or where the founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak Dev, was born. So I think it's, I think it was started off about 45 years ago from somebody's house in Gravesend or in East London, one of my dad's friends. And then he didn't have enough space in his house to keep all the literature that they would be producing. So my dad actually allowed our conservatory in an old house in Southall to be used. So I think initially it used to be maybe a couple of boxes. Then after about 4 or 5 years, at one stage, the whole conservatory was completely packed from top to bottom with literature and greeting cards, because they also produce Sikh greeting cards. So I think that's when my dad realized that it's not really going to be enough to be able to have everything at home. We're going to have to find a premises. So somehow, I don't know how they managed to do this. My father and some of the charity members, they managed to find a building in 10 Featherstone Road in Southall. And literally it was a tip. So it was an old derelict building.
You mean like there was a secret that was told to you? It was like a secret bit of information that was given to you and your dad, and you went. Is that what you mean by a tip?
Well, by tip meaning that it was it had no roof and had no windows, and it had mud and sludge up to about 15 meters
Excellent.
high, and all the way into the back garden. So we spent about when we were about 8 or 9 years old, we'd be going out with my dad with shovels and literally spending the whole day getting the mud and putting it into skips. So it's been a long journey in terms of where it was then and where it is now. So now the building's got about 25 rooms. It's got a community center. It's got a religious center. It's got pretty much everything.
Well, John Smith, Prakash, and as well, and Rahul, all giving a shout out this morning to you, listening to your exploits in the charity world, Lakhi Singh. So you basically cleaned it up. How many weeks did it take you to get to that point that it was worth? I mean, did you get the roof fixed? Did you have to raise money for it? Did you just go out and fix it and then bother about the money
I think
afterwards?
it took it over about 30 years of slowly developing it, because all the money was raised by the congregation and contributors from subscribers to the charity. And my dad's actually a very good fundraiser, and he would go to lots of different gurdwaras, and every time there was a some sort of congregation, or he would actually get them to mention the Sikh Community Society and its work, and get them to potentially contribute.
Okay, and a Sikh mission that's been around for about 45 years, you say?
I think it may have been a bit longer than that. I think originally it was started off by a gentleman called Lakhi Singh, who's sadly passed now. But his son now carries on the legacy in terms of he's written quite a lot of literature. So Mr. Gurbachan Singh was also a writer of books. So a lot of books were also written by him about Sikhism. So his son's written a couple of books called Anglo-Sikh Wars. Is with the British, and he's gone back to India and taken pictures of key points in the part of Punjab and regions where the war took place with Ranjit Singh, the leader of Punjab. So yeah.
And this battle was with who? Who was the battle with?
So the battle was with the British, who were trying to conquer Punjab. So I haven't had a chance to read the book, but I have actually bought it, and I've got it as part of my library somewhere. But it's something that's on my wish list to read, actually.
Yeah, and that is written by a gentleman by the name. What's his name?
His name is Amarpal Singh Sidhu.
Amarpal Singh Sidhu, right?
So
okay.
he and I used to go to the Sikh camps together, which the Sikh Missionary Society used to organize over 30, 40 years ago. So the first 30 camps that ever happened from when I was about 7, 8 years old. The first 25 to 30 camps, I attended every single one, either as a attendee or as an organizer.
So, and then after that, now do your kids go there?
I did actually send the kids a few times. So they did attend. I think they enjoyed it. So the kids are a bit older now. I think they went a bit younger, and they enjoyed it at the time. So I think it sort of gave them somewhat of a grounding about Sikhism.
So what's the last stage that you can attend this camp?
Well, the age groups are typically from about 8 till 16.
16.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. So we've got that part of your charity work. And what about with the stuff abroad? What do you do there? Do you fly over with bags of food or gifts or clothes? What do you do?
So the Sikh Community Society actually gives a contribution to some very well established charities in India. And then with the Sikh Seva International, which is a different charity, they actually have a community center in Punjab that has provided lots of facilities to the poor. So they provide free eye operations for cataracts. They provide free limbs. People who've got missing limbs, they provide them replacement limbs. They also help with the drug abuse, which is quite common now with the young kids, in terms of getting them off the streets and back to normality. Okay. So there's a lot of services they provide like that, and also a lot of education facilities as well for in poorer areas where children can't get education.
Okay, so drug abuse and children who don't have access to education, and also what else do they do?
They provide free eye operations to people
as well,
suffering with
and
eye
limbs.
problems.
Is there a
and
big
free
demand
limb
for
replacements.
limbs? So there's a big demand for limbs in India.
There is,
Pardon?
yeah, because there isn't really much easy access to hospital facilities. You have to pay for it. So a lot of people with physical disabilities and issues don't have wheelchairs. They may not be able to get even simple things like crutches. So all these things which may cost 10, 20 pounds or maybe 50 pounds in this country, for them over there, they could be invaluable in terms of giving them access to potentially be able to walk or be able to do very simple things that they can't do.
So what have you gone over and done yourself? Have you actually gone over and done stuff yourself in the Sikh in Seva Society, the International Seva Society?
No, I haven't been personally, but my father's been on numerous occasions. Usually before COVID-19, he was going regularly every year. At least every other year, he'd be visiting the charity itself and just meeting the organizers and some of the leaders in terms of rolling out the funds and ensuring that everything was actually happening the way it's meant to happen. Because he is one of the key senior directors in the charity.
Okay. So who do you have who's famous apart from this gentleman who writes books? Anybody else?
There isn't anybody famous. Most people are either business people or retired pensioners who decided to contribute their time. So they're from quite humble backgrounds, not necessarily from a business background. So it's sort of architects, accountants, solicitors, and my dad worked in the post office, so he's managed to rally up a lot of the retired pensioned post office workers as well, sorters they were called, or postmasters. So it's got quite a combination of people that help us. Anybody that's got time to contribute. The charity's changed a little bit now. They've sort of tried to pay people as well to do certain things, and try to get more the helpers to do the seva, as they're called, the helpers to do maybe other more office work, or maybe the bookkeeping or the website work, and then they may pay somebody to look after the upkeep of the religious side of the Sikh society, such as the kirtan, the prayers. So it's actually taken a bit more of a life of its own now in the last 5-10 years to try to make it more self-sufficient.
So we got a shout out from Amar Ali as well, Amar. And we've got the social media marketing manager as well from YouTube, who's giving us a shout out, who's watching us. So the question is, Lakhi Singh, I think it's quite common with charities and trusts like this that are trying to help people, that you find that the quality of work normally is very low, because everybody seems to think they're doing a favor or they're doing their bit, but there's no formal engagement. So is that why you decided to employ certain people, pay people?
Yeah, I think Sikh society is finding that you would get people saying, yeah, I'll volunteer, but a lot of people can't always offer their time as easily as they thought they might. So to avoid that inconsistency, it's important that the shops get manned, and there is somebody there to actually work in the charity when people come in. The Sikh Mission Society also provides lots of books, literature. They will provide turbans, quite a lot of different types of things which actually you may need, like a kara, a kanga, lots of different types of things that people use. Can you hear me okay?
So yeah, we can hear you. We're
The screen
listening
seems to
to.
have frozen, so I'm going to just close off and come back in again.
Okay, cool. While Lakhi goes, we'll continue. It's quite interesting to see how people across the world are trying to help each other even in these difficult times. Obviously, people realize that not everybody has got it as good as they have. And I think as long as you keep looking downwards and looking down at the people who are less well off than yourself, it makes sense. So yes, Lakhi Singh. So we're talking about the fact that a lot of charities have lots of people who are volunteers, but the volunteers normally end up not doing the basics, and it's probably a good change. Was this your input to get these people paid? Sounds like a very clever strategic move that only you would have implemented.
Well, the charity, the way it's set up, it's got certain rules and policies and regulations and committees. So what happened is, I haven't really been involved.
Cameron saying good morning. Cameron saying good morning as well on YouTube. Before you continue, Lakhi. Yep, continue, Lakhi.
So I haven't really got involved in the day-to-day running of the Sikh Mission Society as such. What's happened is, as and when there's some senior voting for key party members or key organizers in the charity, then I've attended based upon my dad saying, if you can attend, it'd be important that you give your input. So I do normally have been attending at least once or twice in a year to the key committee meetings, just to ensure that the right people that we think would be the better leaders for the charity are actually deployed. So I think that's probably been probably more of a critical part where my dad thought, okay, well, we'll need you there for your input.
Right. Okay. So how far out does this society operate in the United Kingdom? What's the last extent?
It's pretty much international. So it operates in probably about 30 or 40 cities in terms of having relationships with the key gurdwaras who actually want the literature, but because they're getting the literature for free, they're not having to pay for it, and it's can be given to the congregation. It's a vested interest that they all have in terms of having the communication with the charity. My dad's also been on the Sikh channel quite a few times, acting spokesman for the charity. Although my dad's actually is not very. He's quite a sort of humble guy. He doesn't really like to be out there. He's like to keep.
So he's not animated. You mean he's not more of a TV person? He's more of
I think he just likes to do the charity work and just be behind the scenes ideally. But because he's quite how do you say, hardworking, but very conscientious. He keeps on getting voted back in to be the leader of the charity time and time again. So I think he's literally every 2 to 3 years for the last 45 years, I think he's at least been the head of the charity about 15 times or something.
Excellent. Okay. And do you feel this rubs off on you? Is this a mold of Lakhi Singh? Are these things the things that mold you?
Yeah, definitely. I think my dad's wanted to set a good role model in terms of going out there, doing something for the community, looking outside of himself. I think he's also found it it's been his passion. I think it's also been very good for him as well, because when he was brought up as a child, his family environment wasn't very good, and I think this is probably like a way of making a contribution, and also probably getting away from some of the bad upbringing that he had, because he was brought up in a slightly rough environment, because his brothers or family that he had, they weren't necessarily very respectful of him. So he's the only educated person in his side of the family who's actually got 2 degrees, one in English and one in mathematics. So he really had to sort of focus in to do that, and that took a lot of resolve. But he also had a lot of negative people around him, but somehow he managed to survive and get his education, regardless of his environment. So I think he's quite a deep thinker, but doesn't like to share things. But his overall philosophy is to really be giving back to the community and doing good for people.
Excellent. Okay, so in the charity itself, how many people have an active participation? How many people are you in essence? Before you give the answer to that, give a big shout out to Mandy Sandhu. Hopefully we're going to have her on. Or is it her? Yes, it's her. Mandy is going to be on, hopefully sometime this week, if not the next week. So we will get her on. Good morning to you, Mandy. Continue, Lakhi. Yeah. So how many people have you got in total?
I think there's something like 20 different people.
Yeah.
So I think there's about at least 7 people that are employed by the charity now. So you've got the gentleman, there's all the religious work, you could call it, in terms of opening ceremonies, wedding ceremonies, the kirtan, and there's a couple of other people that get employed with that. Then there's also kitchen workers. They also get employed to come in. So when we have weddings or birthdays, they come and help with that.
Yeah.
And then there's at least 1 or 2 other people that come and help on the community center. So there's yoga sessions and kirtan sessions. So depends how you count it, but there's at least about 20 to 25 people that are involved in some sort of capacity in the Sikh society. And then in terms of the key decision makers, there's at least about 4, 5 people involved in that. So all in all, probably around 20 to 25 people, I think.
Excellent. So how has it affected you, COVID? How is that affecting the society and how you're operating? Are you having to change the model, the way it works?
Well, I think the charity, if I've understood it from my dad, has been closed down. Because
is
it's
that
not
permanently or is that temporarily or what?
I think it's temporarily. It's a bit inoperable with COVID-19. So I think they've decided to keep it closed for the moment, because it's quite a thin part-time type workforce anyway.
Yeah.
So I think for the moment it's actually on a closed mode. And I think as soon as things get back to some level of normality, then they may consider actually then opening up the doors again.
Okay, so what's the situation with the COVID now in the UK? What's happening next? What's around the corner?
Big question. Okay, so lockdown starts as of Thursday this week for 4 weeks, and there's rumors afoot from Gove that it could be extended a lot more, depending on the numbers, and it means that I mean, schools and universities will still be open, but restaurants will be closed. Restaurants and pubs will be closed. Takeaways will be open. It will mean that you can still go to work, and if you're a key worker, you can go to work. But preference is that you stay at home. But they're saying that you can go to work this time. They're not saying you can't go to work, or it's for essential work only. Yeah. So that's good, because I've got a lot of work to do, and I've got to get out there and do the work. So I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. The only difference it's going to make is to the hospitality industry, which will suffer. And I think leisure and exercise as per normal. And I think there's a few complications around. I'm trying to get my head around it. Is that you're not really meant to be congregating it in private places either now, but you can congregate outside. So I haven't got my head around all the rules at the moment. So I think it's going to be very difficult to meet family members, is what I've understood of it.
Okay.
So I think that's the bit that I'm going to sort of try to understand before Thursday comes. But hopefully some of the viewers can actually shed some light on it. I'm sure we've got some experts out there who actually know the rules back to front.
And do you think the rules are going to help, or is it just a way of keeping people safe by force? Is it going to help? Will it help?
Good question. I don't know. I actually haven't tried to read between the lines, because they've made it quite complicated to try and work out whether it's going to help or not. Well, what will happen is that I think it will help, because obviously when they had the lockdown, things sort of seemed to slow down a bit. But I'm not sure whether they're focusing in on the right things, because they're not necessarily testing to find out who's got what and then isolating them. So I think having a broader policy to just sort of say, do this, do that, just makes the government feel good about doing something. But the reality is that if you just tested everybody and whoever's got it, they stay at home, or they quarantine, or you have some very clear rules and regulations about them. I don't think there's any focus on the most critical element to all of this. But I've decided to sort of steer clear from overthinking this, because I rather overthink things that I can control rather than things that I can't control, which are outside my pay grade. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a morning shout out from Mohsin Ravjani, giving a shout out. Says, good morning, gents. Obviously he's talking about me, but I'm not plural, so we'll take that being gent. Okay, so we move on to Lakhi Singh's Wikipedia live story, because we wanted to get a flavor of what you are doing, your philanthropic side, or the things that you get involved in, which is not about large deals and large money and making moves in the city. This is about time out with family and friends, and looking at people who are less comfortable than yourself. So what do you find? Has there been a change in the in general society? Are there more needy people out there since the lockdown? There's much more people needing your services or your time when you do take the time out to participate in your charity.
Well, I think the charity and my work are somewhat interlinked, but because the charity work is more to do with the education and helping people in poverty in India, we're very busy in my work at the moment because a lot of people are struggling with their finances.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes me back to 2007, 8, and 8 when I had my own issues with the last recession. So I'm getting quite a few people coming to me now thinking, okay, well, all these 4 or 5 things are happening now. Interest rates may go up.
Yeah.
Can't get money easily, even though I've got a £2 million portfolio and very little debt. I can't seem to be able to get money because I've had some sort of CCJ. I've got I borrowed money, £200,000 from investors, and I promised them a certain return every month. I can't sustain that return now because my forecast was getting X amount of margin every month, but because of COVID-19, I'm not hitting my targets and the money's not coming in. So those creditors aren't happy and I'm having sleepless nights. What shall I do? So these are just the last 3 clients that I've been working with in the last 72 hours. So yeah, I think it is. I think I'm sort of because I do it every day and I've been doing it for the last 14, 15 years, this type of work. It's it is. I think this is just touching the surface of what's happening. I think it's going to get a lot worse, and the government is underplaying it, and the property sales market is showing is really buoyant. I mean, there were some stats out showing that the sales market has gone up by 5.8% since a year ago.
Yeah.
There's a 0.8% increase in sales in October.
Yeah.
So a lot of those things don't seem to correlate in my head in terms of what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So I think national stats may be X, but the reality is that a lot of people are struggling, especially if they've got a portfolio of 3, 4 properties going up to 10, 20, 30 properties. They're feeling the pinch because there's a...
I think there's a general confusion when stats are given, Lakhi. You've probably come across it on many occasions, and that is there is a marked difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics and the stats that are normally transmitted. So information that you get out on the headlines isn't normally a reflection of what's happening day to day with a smaller man. It's normally a reflection of what probably has happened in the city. So there is normally a discord or a difference between what you see and what is the ground reality. Having said that, what we're seeing, we've got Sonia this morning. Good morning to you, Sonia. And we've got the famous Mr. Noor making moves, who's coming in from the commercial department at MCFU, as usual, under the radar, practicing his crawling techniques. Apparently, he's got a pair of 3D glasses that he bought when he went to see Jurassic Park 5 or 10 years ago. He's still got the pair, keeps a hold of them. They've come in use for his extra curricular activities. Right. So, okay. So you're saying it's not reflective, and obviously they're saying that the sales market has increased. Is that normally, again, misdemeanor in terms, or a misguided group bit of information, because it's probably coming from the square mile or the city, and it reflects large corporate acquisitions or the likes, but probably affect the average stat. But it's not reflective of what's happening in sunny Halifax, or Macclesfield, or Dunstable. It's probably just stuff that's happening in the city. Is that correct, Lakhi?
To be honest, it's very difficult to say because it's guesswork. I mean, you could also argue the opposite, because they've cut the stamp duty. You've got a lot of people who've got their life savings of a couple of hundred, thinking, okay, I'll just go and buy myself a one-bed flat in Newcastle and get a rental income from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll wait I can get it on a cheap price because people aren't getting rent and there's a stamp duty saving. I'll just go and buy myself a couple of passive incomes.
Yeah.
So I think there may be a combination of that, and there could be a combination of the sort of between
macroeconomic figures.
Sorry?
Macroeconomic figures that have been sort of like thrown in there.
Yeah,
to
it could be a combo of the two. So that my guess is that yeah, you're right. It could be the larger figures around the 20-30 million mark, and the very bottom end figures where there's a stamp duty saving. People are making saving on a couple of £100,000 purchase.
Mm-hmm.
That area of the market is now eventually beginning to crystallize. So a lot of those sales are closing now, maybe in October. I mean,
one of our listeners on today, it's working. Lakhi Singh, I'm going to have to ask you to just hold on. We've got one of our listeners to come in. Mandy Sandhu, I think. She's coming in to ask a question. Mandy, can we hear you?
She's got herself on
muted.
mute.
She's put herself on mute. Okay. Mandy, can you use sign language? Can you use your hands to tell us your question? All right. Okay. You're unmuted now. Mandy, sorry.
Can you hear
Mandy
me?
Sandhu. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. No, morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to ask, how are you all coping with the COVID situation?
Right, it's a very broad statement. I'm probably in depression or something like that. I can't speak for Mr. Singh, but it's a broad question. So, are you talking about specifically us, or businesses, or the general? Who does it direct?
In business. In business, I guess.
In business. Okay.
Yeah.
First question is, can you tell us a bit about yourself? Because I'm sure lots of listeners want to know who Mandy Sandhu is. It's important. Yes. So we know where the question is. You sound very intellectual. So I assume you're probably a lecturer in Imperial College. Is that right?
No.
Nearly there.
No. I used to work for the NHS in Manchester.
Excellent.
I used to work in IT, but I was made redundant a while ago now. And I was also investing in property at the same time as I was working. And I've always been interested in property. I was doing single lets at first, and then my last project was doing a renovation to turn the property into a HMO. But the JV partner wanted to pull out because they needed their money at the time, so I had to sell up, and I'm starting all over again, really. I'm starting with deal sourcing again to build up my capital.
Okay.
And
so what are you finding on the deal sourcing side? What are you finding as a deal sourcer? Are you finding there's lots of buyers out there, not enough assets, or are you finding lots of assets, not enough buyers? or is it an even mix? And you're out in Manchester, is that right?
Yeah, yes.
You're Mancunian, are you? You're Mancunian.
No.
You're not Mancunian.
No. I'm a Yorkshire girl.
Yorkshire girl.
Yeah.
Excellent. What part of Yorkshire are you from?
West Yorkshire, Huddersfield.
West Yorkshire. Put wood in toil, lass. Is that right?
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Right, okay. Excelente. Okay, so your angle obviously is from somebody who has just tried to toe dip into property and obviously had a problem with a joint venture partner who's pulled out. But what's the general feel that you're getting? Are you getting lots of buyers? Are you getting lots of sellers? Are you getting lots of assets and not enough buyers? And how is it?
I'm finding a lot of properties, but not enough buyers or investors.
Okay.
So,
and is there a reason for that? Is it that you're just new into property and you don't have the right network? Or is it just that everyone's gone dead and quiet when it goes to purchasing?
I guess I'm new to the deal sourcing side of things, so it's finding the investors for me. So I've just got to work on my social media presence and continue building my profile up.
Excellent. Well, you come to the right place. This is one of the key reasons that the alternative property and business communities were set up, so that it allows people, newcomers, oldcomers, people who are deep, long in the tooth, and people who've just started to get to do business on one platform. And there's no incentive on this platform, the old ABS, what we like to call it, the Alternative Business and Property Solutions community, for you to have to go jump through any hoops. You will have access to all of the contacts in the database that the fixer, Lakhi Singh, has, and vice versa. So the question, I think, is possibly geared around Lakhi Singh. You need to answer that question, being that you are the fixer and you're the gentleman who's been into property for so many years. So yes, what are you finding the market to be? Is it gone quiet? Is it that you got more deals, less buyers? Is it the same? Is it an equal balance? What's happening? This is particularly for Mandy, because she wants to know.
So Mandy, yes, the market is pretty busy. There's lots of people that want to sell. But you're right. I don't think there's as many buyers around as there were before. And if they are around, they tend to be sitting with quite experienced people, estate agents or experienced sources who've been dealing with estate agents. I mean, they've been dealing with their buyers for a long time, so they've got a bit of an established book of people that want to buy from them. So I think from my point of view, the market is pretty buoyant. We're getting a lot of buyers and a lot of sellers on our books, but mind you, it's a bit different because I'm sitting in the heart of Mayfair, and we've got about 9 Facebook groups, and we're setting up offices across the whole country, so it's a bit different. But if you need buyers,
Lakhi's probably a bit more of a Saturday Night Live dancing champion. So compared to most of us, he's got lots of moves still that he's not made. But Mandy, you're also being invited in apparently for a live session. So we'll get to know more about the life story, the life in the NHS, and where you've come from and where you're going to. I hope that partly answers your question. I know it's probably more of a reaching out question, but I'm sure there's some services there with Lakhi Singh that you can take advice for or help in building up your database and your network to be able to close some of those deals. Okay?
Yep. No, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling in. I will look forward for you to coming in on one day. I think we're going to get you connected, and you're going to come in and tell us about your life. And then we'll also go through questions that you've got, which are relating to business and other things. And hopefully there should be some advice in the group regarding how to build up your network. Okay?
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Thanks, Mandy. Take care.
Okay, a lovely Mandy Sandhu there, obviously looking at the property and business market from outside in at the moment, but possibly somebody who'd like to take advantage. And there will be an advantage to take, I believe, Lakhi. Is that right? In every person's downside is someone's upside. Is that right, Lakhi?
Yeah, definitely. I think we shouldn't really be looking at it from a negative point of view. I think anybody who's losing could also be a winner in this situation, because if they play their cards right, they just need to know really what cards to play. And if they're working
about playing the cards, we've got an interesting question in from Cam, who asks regarding the payment or the mortgage payment holiday. What's your opinion? Do you think it should be stretched until next January? Do you think that's going to make a difference? Yes or no?
I mean, I suppose the more the government can do to help people, the better, because anybody that's on the poverty line, even a penny difference to their day-to-day income is going to make that difference between them being in financial hardship. So I think
is this for Buytolets, Lakhi, commercial assets, or is it just for residential? Is it residential holidays? What is it?
I think the mortgage holidays can be applied to probably, I'm guessing it's actually for residential. I can't necessarily see it for being for a buy-to-let, but I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest. If you can get it for buy-to-let, then it's balle balle. That means fantastic. So if anybody can get these mortgage holidays, it's all good. The problem you've got is that if you take some of the mortgage holidays, some of the banks are seeing that as looking at it almost like a default or a mispayment, and they're not allowing you to buy new properties quite in the same way. So I think we need to probably get that validated from Bob Singh, because he deals with these type of clients on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
Okay, Lakhi. But the question is, you're saying if the government helps, and it's excellent, and it helps in payment and giving people a breath of fresh air, or at least more time to organize themselves. But, payment holidays, I mean, I've read terms and conditions where the payment holiday in its essence is so ridiculously drafted that the bank asks you to pay 3 months upfront to get the 3-month holiday. Is there any essence in that? Is that the way the holiday is being given? Is it according to the terms and the conditions that payment holiday is being granted to you? Pay up 3 months in advance, and we'll give you 3 months. It's a bit, isn't it a bit weird?
No, I don't think it works. I think they're giving you 3 months non-payment, and then they're getting it to be added to your mortgage. That's what I've understood of it.
Pardon?
I think they're adding it to your mortgage, and
okay,
then
they're adding it to your mortgage. Okay, so you're not. So again, I mean, the fact is, if they're adding it to your mortgage, I mean, in the original terms and conditions, they will expect you to pay 3 months upfront and then take a 3-month holiday, which is a bit ridiculous. But what they're saying now is they're adding it to your mortgage term. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, Lakhi, we're on our last 30 seconds. So what say you to this week? What's going to happen? Is Mr. Trump going to win, or is it going to be Mr. Biden? Who's going to win? Which one is it, the red or the blue?
I think my gut feeling is that Trump will win. I think that's just the way things will play out.
Okay,
I
so
can't
that's
say
probably
why.
well, probably the right place for Mr. Trump in your gut somewhere. So that's probably correct. Okay, we will see you tomorrow, Lakhi Singh, at the same time, same place, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Lakhi Singh, the property fixer. And we'll have, I think we've got a guest on tomorrow. Can't remember the name. We will find out tomorrow, hopefully. And we look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. drive time with Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, and the alternative business and property community